Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Now, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Thanks as always for making us your first listen. This episode brought to you by FanDuel. And during the tournament, FanDuel is offering $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you for a Locked On Texas Tech special edition, the Matador Mob Mailbag. Your questions, our answers. And coming up on this episode, we'll talk Red Raider football and maybe one specific area where we're expecting one of the biggest jumps and leaps in progress made that we've seen from season to season. Also want to talk about what's on the line for the Red Raiders in the Big 12 Conference, not only last year in pursuing a conference title, college football playoff spot, we expect it this year as well, and what kind of advantage that actually is for Tech compared to possible other situations folks have dreamt about in other leagues coast to coast. But first, I want to start on a hoops front because a whole lot of questions still impending, of course, with the transfer portal set to open up only days away. And we had several in general asking about this thought. Kyler, Marvin, Brian, Kent, Randall. We also had Lisa among them. Are we approaching what you would describe as major overhaul and or total reset territory? We can talk numbers, Chris. We can also talk prominence when it comes to those players that we've been discussing the most. We know JT Toppin. We know Christian Anderson. So how would you respond to that question, and what do you think about the big picture when it comes to roster building or rebuilding?
I think you may not be alone there in that. I think a lot of these Big 12 schools, may have to kind of hit the reset button a bit. Bill Self announces that he's returning. I've heard that they, will kind of, with graduation and early entries and all that, I think we already know Arizona's team will look largely completely different after whatever happens with their Final Four run. So I think that I'm as curious as anybody about who you retain and what it looks like, because I'm just not sure what direction you're going. This happened in the last day or so with Leon Horner entering the portal. The reason why that may be a bigger deal than most would realize is just because he's so tight with Christian Anderson, that they're buddies. They were maybe arguably the two. Each would say that's probably my best friend on the team. The other, and with him leaving, probably a pretty good indication that Christian won't be back here. And so what are you starting with? I saw Baylor have to totally start over with 100% new team. Bit of a dicey proposition there, I think. And they had NBA draft picks. They had a top signee from the high school ranks and the Yesufu kid. They, Cameron Carr was a big time player for them. But when you start hitting the reset button, or you start like going all in on portal, and this may be your intent, this may not be your intent. It's just like, hey man, what choice do we have? Everybody left, or we didn't want to pay what they were wanting, and whatever. So different reasons we can get to this point. One of our guys is hurt. That's also part of the issue here in JT's case. We've talked about this before, but like, where does your culture come from? Where do the expectations come from? Who is your leader? Does everybody think they're a leader? We don't have anybody that's been through it before, and it's one thing if you're a Leon Horner, or a Jazz Henderson, or a Mariola Quintek, or whatever. I'm talking about guys that have played, that have been through the wars in the Big 12 on a Monday night, and then again on a Saturday, and played in front of sold out crowds and hostile environments and all the stuff, like, because that's when, and so if you start over, it's just like, where's our backbone? Like, what do we lean on? Do we have any bread and butter? We think we might. Let's adjust. I mean, there may be a process to all of it, and that's why the retention with the right pieces that's what has won and probably will continue to win. I like Houston. Houston's another program, one of the top. They're Uzan, Sharp, gone. Kingston Fleming's probably gone. Chris Sinak probably gone to the NBA. Tugler could be back. Some of those bench pieces that played a ton of minutes, I think they're out of eligibility. So you see what I mean? And so that's a program that is just relied on. They keep their dudes, and so you may not be alone in this thing, but the Big 12 could look quite a bit different next year, and maybe not as good, maybe a bit more wide open. I just don't know. I don't know what we're all about to see, because you may be hitting somewhat of a reset button, but you won't be alone there. I'm curious. Again, I point to, if we read the context clues on Christian Anderson, it really just points to Petty and Mosley. That's your two guys, and what that's not necessarily JT and Christian from the year before. So you would need some serious juice around them, and some sure things. Because I think you knew what Christian was and what JT was. He was the Big 12 Player of the Year. And I think that while I love Mosley and his upside, and I think we're just starting to see the surface scratched, and Petty is probably close to a sure thing. But what in the grand scheme of things, like, are those two All-Americans like Christian and JT were?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So
that's not even close. Maybe can mature into that. I think you mentioned it with somebody like Petty, though. Is that the type of length that you really want to be building around, or is that more of a complementary player to what you hope is already a longer team on the floor for all kinds of purposes? So as much as you love those guys, I think, yes, mass overhaul, total reset, whatever you want to call it, you're going to have to be in that territory by virtue of many things. Some of those out of your control, some of those otherwise unfortunate, like injury. I hate to be talking about that, but then you just think about, like you said, the thought of Christian Anderson and what you're having to prepare for there. So while we're on his name, I did want to ask a question from Seth, and I know it's on many minds out there. When we talk about Christian Anderson not being back next year, do you still feel like there's a window open to more college basketball, or is this all talk of going on to professional things?
I mean, it's all an option. I don't think that if he's not coming back here, it's with the intent of continuing his college career. That's my opinion, but I can't. Again, and we've described the timing is awkward with the way that the NBA process is. It doesn't necessarily line up with roster building at the college level. And then there's okay, well, let's just let you go through it and let's revisit in late May and early June, but. So I don't know how this is going to play out, because there's as I said, if he indicates that he's going to test the NBA waters, which I guess that's what I'm expecting at this point, I don't think it's with the intent of doing anything other than going to the NBA. And I think that he's on a variety of mock drafts in the first rounds, anywhere between 15 and 25 in a variety of places. There's no guarantee on any of that. He would have to go earn the right to be chosen. But there's also a world that we could live in where it's like Darion Williams. Now, I think he has a much better chance of being in the NBA than Darion Williams does. He's got positional size. He's got some things that he plays the pick and roll about as good as anybody I've ever seen. That's what that league is. But if he could get an assurance that he's going to not fall any further from, hey, we got this pick, because the lottery has to play out. We have to know the draft order, and then you have to go through the process. There's all these things. That's just not on your exact timeline. But if there was a world that we're living in where he doesn't get the right assurance that he pivots back to college, I'm sure that you would at least want to have a conversation, depending on how the exit happens, or how the I don't think there's any bad blood here, but I also wonder what the finances look like and what the role looks like. And he's a ball dominant player, that what we would see. I don't think he would be coming back going, yeah, I'll come back and play off the ball, or sacrifice, or yeah, that'll help me get to the next level. I mean, I just don't know what that looks like for him if he were to pivot and want to get back into college. But do I think he's going to get into the portal with the intent of like going to take visits and playing college basketball somewhere next year, that's not my read on it, but we'll see.
Thank you for that question. Switching gears here, this question from Kenneth, thinking Red Raider football. He's asking if Texas Tech is able to remain in competition for a conference title and a path to the college football playoff, is there actually some advantage in that long term as compared to battling it out in a bigger league like the SEC or Big Ten?
So basically it's being asked, do we have eyes on greener pastures? Is that what you're
I think he's asking, would you rather be the champion of a smaller pond for a long term or battling it out in a bigger pond that does come with its own obvious advantages as well?
Yes. I think either role is fine. The only problem about being a big fish in a smaller pond is if access would dry up, if you're a big fish and the pond that you're in is just smaller, and it's like you're all of a sudden like a Boise State of the world, and like, yeah, that's cute. They can make a little noise. But like, what league are they even in? And like, they play all their games on Thursday and Friday nights and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that either spot is a bad one to be in. I think though that as you look long term, you've got to understand where your future is. And if there's any concern about the Big 12 being less than or not, or basically having its access limited, or where it's like a one bid league permanently, that's probably a bit of a concern. You want access to the highest place that the sport can take you. And if that is taken away, then all of a sudden being the big fish in a little pond isn't near as fun. And so either spot is not a bad place to be. I would say that. So, but that's the one caveat I would offer up is if the Big 12 all of a sudden becomes, where it's just not as stable or it's not as respected, and some would already say, well, isn't it kind of already? Well, I don't know if I buy that yet, but if you continue to not have playoff success in the CFP and they continue to expand it and then work in some automatic bids and say, hey, we're barely giving you anything, and you start taking it at some point, it's not being a big fish in the pond that you're in. It doesn't behoove you to continue that if there is another option. Now the question really is too, do you have another option? Is that what we're looking at in a few to 4 years from now? I don't know.
Yeah, and this kind of, man, and who was this, Kenneth? Yeah, and this psychotic sort of like a fish tournament you got going on here.
I'm Clea Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament Elite Eight wrapped up with the UConn Huskies staying undefeated at 38-0 after a decisive win over Notre Dame, while the UCLA Bruins rallied past Duke behind a dominant second half performance. On the other side, the remaining one seeds in South Carolina and Texas will be determined after their matchups against TCU and Michigan, respectively. Next up, the Final Four is set for Friday in Phoenix, with the winners advancing to the national championship on Sunday. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Today's episode brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment, that's not the most convenient. Sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled the right way. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Man, and who was this? Kenneth? Yeah, and this psychotic sort of like a fish tournament you got going on here. At the end of you competing in your little pond, there's an opportunity to then be transferred to the bigger pond, and then you fight it out in that bigger pond. We got to score some wins in the bigger pond eventually to keep like our little pond seeming cool, or at least cool enough when you get back to it. If the gulf becomes untenable between those ponds, Chris, that's when trouble begins, I think. And I do agree that while everybody knows from a perception standpoint, or again, we talked about this week, whether justified some reality to it, or exaggerated, there is a gulf between the top two conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, and those others trying to compete there in the Power Four, the Big 12 and the ACC. Right now, it's not necessarily insurmountable, but money adds up over time, and these numbers are not equal or really even comparable in many ways. So we'll see how that plays out. But thank you for the question, Kenneth, and an opportunity to consider a coast-to-coast fish fight. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
This question here from we're going to stick with football. We're going to get a little bit more closer to home here with Trent, who's talking about last season to this upcoming season for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders, asking, will next season in program history? He's talking about a full stable of running backs, tight end depth, an added layer at quarterback, and he says he loves the hog mollies as well, both the band and the offensive line. What do you think about our chances? Maybe in the red zone, yes. Also short yardage. In physical moments, do you think we got a different kind of experience coming in?
Yeah, I was looking this up as that question was being asked just to be sure. But like last year, you were 50th in the country at scoring percentage in the red zone. You were, let me see if I can even dumb it down even more here. You were, let's see here. This is the number that is why this question is being asked. You were 98th in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. 98th. You scored touchdowns 55% of the time. This is why this question is being asked. I could envision a scenario if Quentin Joyner is healthy and you keep Brendan Sorsby healthy and health, that you could be in the top 10 of this category. Yes. Nationally. I think you have a chance to make some serious noise with your offense next year. I think you have a chance to be talked about, written about, noted that your offense could be as good as what your defense was a year ago, historically speaking. It may look different. It may not be the air raid and the whatever, but I mean, I just think you could be in a position where you can just like control the terms of the way the game is played, lean on people, punish people, hurt people from a variety of different ways, have plenty of explosiveness. And you've just got a stud back there calling all the shots with your quarterback. That's what I think. Again, does he stay healthy? Is Quentin Joyner what we think, and is he a part of it? And then do you relatively stay healthy at the other spots? But if the answer is largely yes, I mean you're going to flip this stat, flip it.
Need to. I like the sound of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where some championship winning football kind of time shows up in those moments. So would love to see it. Thank you for that question. And since you mentioned the name of Quentin Joyner, wanted to get to this question from Todd, who is asking, of Quentin Joyner and the running backs, do we expect Joyner to lead this group, fit into this group? How would you view the role?
Based on him coming back from injury, I think it's more of a fit in. It's not a lead. I mean, I think last year, prior to him going down, I would have told you lead. I think I said as much. I think that he was going to be the And again, what did that look like? Was he going to get 70% of the carries, and then Cam and Jacoby and all that? Like he will be another piece to a very impressive deep backfield here. We've seen what Cam and Jacoby can do. We've seen them with consistency. I think Cam was one of the best stories in the Big 12 last year from a player standpoint. He was better than anybody would have thought, myself included. And he produced. He was consistent. But you also had these red zone issues. And is that their fault? Is that the O-line's fault? Is that not having a running quarterback's fault? I don't know, but it was something, right? It's a thing. And when Joey talks about being bigger, that's a lot of defensive line talk, but that's also a lot of offensive line talk. And that's also a lot of tight end talk. Jet Carpenter is going to factor into this too. Moose Ludwig Matt is his first name, is going to factor into this. We know what TC is. I think that your two tackles being back in year 2 in your system and through a full offseason is better. Cam and Jacoby should benefit. It's the player retention thing that I've talked about, like how that works in the basketball thing. These guys should all be better versions of themselves. And Mac Leftwich will be better for it. But the running quarterback is the biggest component of the whole thing in the red zone. But I know I'm getting off track, but Quentin Joyner, I say more fit in as we get going. Now, could that change? Sure. Because I think if he's right and he's healthy, he's really good, like really good, NFL good. So we just don't know what we're getting there or when we'll get it.
Crazy to think about, and just unfortunate you only get one football to utilize on each play because, like we've already talked about this week, as a matter of fact, you just want to be able to spread it around, and that's the job of Mac Leftwich. I thought I saw a photographed beardless Mac Leftwich.
Yeah.
Are we concerned at all about losing any power sans beard? It's a big change for a guy.
But sometimes you just got to go with the reset button. You got to trim it and let it, whatever. It's good for the skin. It's good for the
do your own thing. But I think it's worth noting we want to cover all angles here. So
that's right.
Sorry, I slipped in a little personal question of my own. We'll get back to the list. This from Cody, who says, I know we've talked about it before, but since spring camp has begun, anything revealing regarding the QB lineup after Brendan Sorsby? We touched on this, I guess, a few weeks back, but any feel for this if you had to dip into a QB depth chart after QB1?
One of the things that we touched on this week was about potential pitfalls. If Texas Tech is not going to be what Vegas thinks they're going to be, if they're not going to approach the 10, 11, 12 win category in the regular season, what would be the problem there? How do they come back to the pack? And as we know, the old injury to the signal caller has bit us more than once around here. Yes, for the last decade plus. I go back to the only time you've played at BYU, and I just think poor Jake Strong, and it was and he had Brady Boyd, who just ran a 4.3 at Pro Day, as the backup. I'm like, boy, how times have changed on what your room looks like. And again, because of the portal, because of the way that you can kind of fix potential issues and you can call them what they are, insurance policies. This is what you've done. I think Kirk Francis potentially could be a better version of what Mitch Griffiths was. I think now, do I think Kirk Francis is a better option than what Will Hammond was last year? I don't know about that. Don't know if I'm going that route. But because this is a player that has started games in Francis. I think that you're still able to bring Chubb along, and he's getting obviously a lot of opportunity now. But what happens when Will Hammond is cleared in, I don't know, late September, early October? Then it's like, man, Stephen Cannon, the true freshman. Think about how far away you are from the Jake Strong having to start a game, when you look at it in terms of Stephen Cannon, look how much would have to happen to get to that point again. That's just how thin it was a few years ago with things. So I think Kirk Francis is your backup.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upsets, nonstop action from tip to final cut down. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. You can get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. You can mix it up however you want. Game picks, futures, or even same game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Today's episode brought to you by Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. Always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator, play-by-play. You decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now. To begin, futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
I think Kirk Francis is your backup going into a game. I don't know if I envision that changing until Will Hammond gets back. And then I think you're trying to play the game of how many games do we want to play him? What level is he at? Can we figure out a way where we can get his year of eligibility back so we're not burning anything? What's on the line? I mean, there's all that at play there. But I think right now, until Will Hammond is back, it is Sorsby, Francis, Jones, Cannon.
Okay.
And then that's the way I would say.
All right, thank you for that question. Erwin is asking, are we still considering slot time for Jacoby Williams? I don't know if I've heard much discussed about that. Is that?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. But because of what you have added, may not need it as much. This is again, this can be a different deal now. And we'll see how these guys handle it when, again, who's healthy, what it looks like, who continues to progress, all the things. But I think there's a lot of competition for touches, catches, carries, whatever. It's some of that inside, gadget type stuff. We know what Jacoby can do with the ball in his hands. I think you'd be crazy not to try to give him the ball some. I mean, they've looked at, I think Garrett McGuire's talked about this. They've looked at Malachi Toney, the stud freshman at Miami that just kind of put Miami on his back a bit in the playoffs, and everybody now knows his name, and he was a true freshman. And I think they envisioned some stuff like with Jacoby that way, like let's move him around, and so, but I people should remember the name of Jalen Jones, man, and we'll see what we get, but he is juicy. I mean, there's some serious speed there. And I think you already know what Malcolm Simmons can do. But again, one ball, one football. So
again, you run into that problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question. This one from Caleb. Do you think the pressure is higher on Tech and Coach McGuire this season compared to entering last year?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think there was real pressure last year. You went all in.
Didn't you alleviate some winning a title?
Yes and no. Yes, because that monkey is off your back. You've now cracked the code of doing what you set out to accomplish, but now there's pressure to at least do that, which this is the part that sucks the fun out of sports sometimes, because then you get into these games and like okay, you win and it's like it didn't look good, or wasn't good enough, or I'm not sure you get into that conversation. And I mean, we've struggled around here to win so much and win consistently that, like, again, I think I said this a lot last year. I don't give a damn what it looks like. I'm not worried about margin for victory. Now, that may become a thing as it relates to playoff ranking and your standing in the sport, the way you're talked about, the way you're ranked, and all that stuff. But I just feel like if you win 12 of them by 1 point and then win a 13th by 1 point in Arlington, it didn't really freaking matter. Now, maybe it does on the way you're seated by the committee and if you got a bye or who you have to play, all that stuff. I get that part, but you're just looking to win that game, get to that game in Arlington and win it. But I think there's some real pressure here. Yeah. Part of that is because of what we've talked about. You are an overwhelming favorite. If you don't get to Arlington and win it, there's going to be like, what went wrong? What happened? How did, like somebody would have screwed something. Maybe it was injury. Maybe it was a bad call. Maybe it was hey, we had a wrong game plan. We were too vanilla here. We were trying to do this. I don't know. But yeah, I think there's probably more pressure now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
But I get what you're saying too. The goods were delivered on stated goal. But now it's like, okay, in the party, would like to stay a bit. Like to see what life looks around here at 12:30 at night now. Let's see how crazy everybody gets. You want to stay a little bit longer.
Like to at least get a drink, take my coat off.
Yeah. That's right.
I get what you're saying. You got to sustain the success, obviously, that you achieved last year, and there's still room to improve clearly on the situation nationally. So I get it. I think certainly a different kind of pressure, and maybe that does equal more. Maybe there just outright is more. I'd love to hear from y'all out there, because you, after all, the fanatics, are the ones applying it. Wouldn't be us, not meek and mild podcast hosts or members of the media, et cetera. Thank you for that question.
I just want to win, man. I really. I'm not gonna. If you win the Big 12 title again, man, you won't find anybody happier. And then whatever. I can't get caught up into the beauty contest aspect of this. I can't get caught up into. You're just not Ohio State or Bama yet.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm still going to be having a pretty good time just winning conference titles. I got to tell you, after half a century worth of drought or whatever it was, coming to an end. So, all right. Thank you for that question. Switching gears here a little bit back to hoops. Matt is asking an over under 1.5 assistant coaches leaving the men's basketball program. Do you see some change in the wind for the staff?
Man, last year before the season ended, you already knew that Breyer was leaving for SFA. I think that was pretty clear and out there and all that. I don't know. There's a lot of these jobs that were open that have since been filled. There's some movement. That's just the business. Is there? I would probably say under. I'm just going to go with that. You've got some younger coaches that I don't know. It would probably to get to 1.5. It would probably require Linder to be leaving and take somebody with him. At that point, you would hit the over. Short of that, I don't see, because Rem is pretty young. He came here to have more on his plate. Todrick is just now into this. Nottingham was just promoted into the AC is a pretty young guy. Eventually, they're not young, or eventually they are experienced, so they could go do their own thing. But I don't know if I see them leaving this scenario. But if Linder were to leave and take a head job, then I think somebody would go with him. I think that's pretty standard on how that works.
Interesting. It's such a turn. We talked about this during the regular season when we were considering eyes on your assistants because of the kind of season that you were having. And I think that probably kind of remains unchanged, even though as fans we're all frustrated with the way it came to an end. It doesn't change a guy's resume when we're talking about an All-American being sidelined and it coming to a finish. But I'd sort of tabled that maybe in the back of my mind more so than I should have, thinking about some of that movement among the staff. Thank you for that question.
But it's just like the portal, man. It's all on the table. Don't be surprised
Right.
about anything. They're in a crazy business, man. And I've done this for so many years, and it's the part about the business, and it's even more so now, I guess. It's the part about the business that I like the least, is that people just move. They are constantly, it goes with football, it goes with basketball, the two sports that I work the closest with and do the games for broadcasting wise. But you get to know these people and they're just gone, and they've got different things, or they're from a different place, or my buddy got this job and he's gonna let me be, I mean, it's just like, that's just the way it goes, man.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. Thank you for that question. Malcolm is asking this question about Texas Tech defensively, saying it may not be David Bailey and Romello Height, but do you think we'll still be prolific in sack numbers, or effective but in different ways? Could we still rank highly in that category?
Yeah, I don't know if I see I don't know if you're going to have a guy that is a 14 and a half sack guy like Bailey was, but yeah, collectively, I do think, where I do think you're going to be better. I'm gonna step out there a bit. I think you may be. This is crazy now, so bear with me. I think you may be much better against the run than you were a year ago. And I don't know if I'm willing to say like how much, but I think that you could be better stopping the run. Like that's where you're deeper, you're bigger. Yeah, I think you may be better stopping the run. And like, you were what, tops in the country last year?
Yeah. So how much better could it get?
Yards per game.
I think that's sort of what I've been considering too. Like, even if you're not so prolific in, with sacking the quarterback, could you be better in different ways? It's kind of hard to figure where there was to improve, but you think about turnovers or stopping the run or whatever it might be. So getting used to a different kind of identity. I did think when he was asking about the pass rush, about what you talked about with the interior pass rush being kind of a focal point. It sounded like, who was it? Igbarogba, I think we were talking about.
Yep.
In that context.
Yep. Julian Laventure is another. My questions are, like, I'm looking for who's the Terrell Tillman of this year's team, who's like that third edge player that plays the snaps, that can. I mean, because I just like, if people saw like Terrell Tillman up close, they would be like, because I think a lot of people are like, who's that? Like, I don't know a Terrell Tillman. I'm getting into the weeds a bit, but this was a senior on your team last year, and he didn't play a ton. He's probably starting for a lot of teams out there. Okay, and he made some noise when he got into the game, and he can make plays. He was twitchy. I'm searching for that. Is that Ansel? Is that a LaDamian Guyton? Is that Amari Fleming? Is that some of these other younger, newer pieces that haven't gotten as much ink or aren't here yet? In Guyton's case, I don't know that, but yeah, it's just going to look different. But yeah, QB pressures, sacks, I don't know, but I think you might be even a bit better stopping the run. I don't know. We'll just kind of see what it looks like.
That's incredibly exciting to think about. And I think that is a natural segue to a question that was asked by more than a few, or at least maybe a reflection that was offered, given some of this week's shows. Chris, you had several, like Sean, also like Lance, like Caleb, Roger. We also had Stuart chiming in regarding some confidence you expressed this week, or seeming optimism about a talent level or about the team and what it could be in 2026. Roger even said he didn't know what to do with himself. Chris is typically far more measured than it seemed like he came across this week. Are they picking up on a real thing, or is this a figment of the mob imagination? My phrasing.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah, I try to be measured. I try to be like see it from all sides. I try not to blow smoke. I try not to gas anybody up. And I think people that have watched us and followed us for whether even before we were on this platform that understand we're not getting into clickbait or whatever. And so I always try to keep it real, but I just here's what I see. I'm not sure where we've got proof of process. I'm not trying to get caught up in the recency bias here, but we have proof of process. I think health is always out there in a question and can change the dynamic dramatically. So certain guys get hurt, then it's like, okay, this is be a bit dicey. You're covered in a lot of these ways. So even if there are some issue, I'm telling you though, I just think that you will be able to run it and stop the run at an extremely high level. And so when you do that, and then I compare it to what everybody's bringing back in this league, it does give me confidence. And you didn't take a chance on the quarterback. I have zero. This is a sure thing. I mean, like he is not going to suck. If he plays poorly, he's going to put up still really good numbers and probably the best numbers that he's ever put up. Even if he's not, but that's not, I just don't anticipate that's what, because every one of these portal guys, and then the other thing that I've contemplated, I've almost thought about, like, should we do a show on this? One of the other things that you worry about in sports is complacency. Are you too comfortable? That's one of the beauties of the portal is that you automatically bring in hunger. You brought it all in. None of these cats have done any of what your team did a year ago from wherever they came from. Davin Martin, Bryce Butler, Igborogba, Malcolm Simmons, all of it. And so Sorsby, they all come in and they've got a level of hunger and want to and being. And Joey says this all the time. When guys come here, they play their best football. Well, that's their own internal challenge, and they're all trying to get to the next level. And so that's why you can you don't worry about his complacency as near as much as you would in a normal setting. When it's the same collection from the year before, you kind of, it's old hat. No, this is I mean, there's 45 new dudes here, man. And so yeah, I mean, I just think he might be pretty good. I'm just not going to shy away from it. I think he might be pretty good, but it's the kind of good to where you and I like it the most, where you can just decide how the game will be played, how it won't be played, and there's nothing the opposition can do about it. Nothing. But try to maybe we catch them on an off day. Maybe we bust a play here or there, which we saw that last year. I mean, Avery Johnson got loose early in the game. You saw somebody get loose, but then it stops. I mean, Shieldwood in year 2, I mean, and he's damn good at what he does. So anyway, I just I don't know, man. I don't know where the problems may happen, but it may take a lot for you to not realize some potential here.
Glad you mentioned Shieldwood. I want to get to a question about him in just a minute. Thank you for that question. This question here, we had a few asking in general about this, given some news in the most recent 24 or 48 hours. We had Steven, we had Gabriel, we also had a second Sean asking about the news out of Lawrence, Kansas, and whether or not this means we can sort of breathe a sigh of relief as far as Grant McCaslin being connected to a job like that and now remaining in the 806. But to hear the answer to that one, you'll need to be a Matador Mob insider. So hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial for those on the outside. This is where we leave you. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts, so you never miss a thing, and become a Matador Mobster for less than a cup of coffee a month, so you can get the full Mailbag experience next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Chris, appreciate your time. As always, regulation throughout the week. Now it's on to the OT.
I hope everybody out there finds all the Easter eggs, man, and don't let anybody snake any from your basket if you're wandering around on the search, man. Don't fall for that trick, and don't put one of those peeps in the microwave either. Those Thanksgiving peeps, but yeah, it won't end well for you. But hope everybody has a good one. We'll talk to everybody next time. Keep hope alive, and we'll talk Grant McCaslin going to North Carolina next. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see when you answer the question. And some good, that's why you stay to the end of the show, some good general Easter advice from the only Chris Level. He wears many hats. Thank you all for being out there. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.